The Primal Pioneer. Live an outdoor life. Hosted by quantum clinician and creator of the Sunlight RX, Heather Shepard.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Primal Pioneer podcast. I'm your host, Heather Shepard, and today you're listening to episode 9, The Truth About Cholesterol. Cholesterol is an extremely misunderstood topic, making it one of my favorite topics along with gut health to talk about and to educate people around, because there's just such a gray area, such misunderstanding, so many blind beliefs out there around cholesterol. And literally, when I say the word cholesterol, most people cringe and immediately think of clogged arteries. And this is simply an inaccurate perspective that we've been fed around cholesterol that continues to feed our fear around this topic. And this fear is actually inaccurate and unhelpful, because elevated cholesterol levels actually don't paint an accurate picture about what's going on in our heart. We can use cholesterol labs or the VAP testing to look at other aspects of your health. And I do this in my own practice. I use cholesterol readings and findings to actually learn much more about the body than heart health. There are many other lab tests that offer a more accurate, clear picture as to what's going on in the heart, if the arteries are clogged, how much inflammation is in the body. Really, a cholesterol panel paints a very poor picture overall about what's actually occurring in the heart. And during today's episode, I'm going to dive into this topic, and I'm going to share what your cholesterol labs more accurately reveal. So we're going to look at things like leaky gut, thyroid function, liver function, and we're going to tie this story around cholesterol and cholesterol labs into a much clearer picture for you all. And this is a really important topic that I want to bring some insight and education around, because we've all been taught to fear cholesterol. We've been taught that it's bad, that it's dangerous, but really cholesterol is one of the most important molecules we have in our body. It's responsible for every single steroid hormone production today, including DHEA, testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, and even vitamin D. Yes, we need cholesterol to produce vitamin D, and I'm going to get into the ins and outs of this subject around vitamin D throughout the episode. But really, this episode is designed to empower you around the truth about cholesterol, because if you go to your doctor and they examine your lab findings, and let's just say your cholesterol is elevated, well, they'll be very quick to prescribe you a statin drug. And statin drugs are among the most dangerous drugs out there today. I would not recommend a statin drug to anyone despite their cholesterol levels. One, because cholesterol, as you'll learn in the episode today, says a lot more about inflammation in the body, gut health in the body, thyroid function, and your redox potential, which I'll reveal more about that throughout the episode, than it says about your heart health. So throwing a statin drug on the situation is like trying to put a fire out by lighting a match. It's just going to further fuel the issue. And this drug should be blacklisted. I hope that it is in the future. There's so many financial incentives for pharmaceutical companies and doctors around statin drug prescription that, despite its dangerous side effects such as infertility, liver failure, decreased steroid hormone production, which will ultimately increase your risk of cancer, especially hormonal cancers like breast cancer, liver cancer, pancreatic cancer, prostate cancer. It increases cellular stress. It causes debilitating back pain and muscle issues, and causes type 2 diabetes. So we're offering a very poor resource, this statin drug, to a problem that it's not even going to solve, and we're making matters worse. If you take a statin drug, your health will get worse, guaranteed. So keep in mind that the statin drug isn't going to fix the issue. Now, if you visit a naturopathic doctor or a functional medicine doctor and they see an elevated cholesterol reading chronically, they are likely to prescribe something like red yeast rice or CoQ10 or a combination of these two things in an effort to bring your cholesterol down. However, this too is a Band-Aid solution because it's not going to get to the root as to why your cholesterol is elevated. In some cases, elevated cholesterol is problematic to heart health. In some cases, it tells a different story about the body. It may speak to other areas of the body that need attention. Every single case of elevated cholesterol has its own unique reason for being elevated. And during today's episode, I'm going to help you dig through and gain clarity with regard to how you can tell more accurately what your elevated cholesterol levels may be telling you. So, during the show, I'm going to also reveal the multiple beneficial roles of cholesterol in your body so you can have a really deep understanding of why we need this molecule. I'm going to reveal certain lab values and what they mean with regard to your cholesterol and what they mean with regard to other aspects of your body, such as leaky gut, thyroid production, and liver function. I'm going to get into why you want your LDL to be above 200. Now, your doctor wants it at 100 or lower. This is absolutely insane. This is actually a health risk. Your health will be worse if your LDL cholesterol is at 100 or lower. I never want this in any of my clients. It is a very, very dangerous situation and tells me that your mitochondria are functioning very poorly. So we're going to get into that. We're going to get into the different types of cholesterol and what they mean because not all cholesterol is created equal. We're going to get into what your cholesterol levels reveal about your vitamin D status. There's a super intimate relationship here. And so after this episode, you will likely know more than your healthcare practitioner with regard to cholesterol and what your lab values are actually revealing about your total body health and your cholesterol findings. So enjoy this episode and prepare to have your mind blown. Okay, here we go. Let's dive into this cholesterol topic today. It's a big one, and really, your cholesterol labs are going to reveal a lot about your health, but not much about your heart health. So let's get into this very big topic here today. Most people are baffled about their cholesterol numbers. We've been programmed to think that elevated cholesterol numbers equal bad, dangerous, heart disease risk, clogged arteries. This is what we've been programmed to think. We've all been taught that elevated cholesterol automatically means your arteries have plaque in them, and to avoid foods that are rich in cholesterol to lower your dangerous cholesterol numbers. Total hogwash, just saying. First of all, let's talk about the dietary aspect real quick. I'm not going to take a deep dive into the diet today, but know that the diet you're eating has very little to do with your cholesterol levels because your body will produce cholesterol despite the diet you're eating. It has to produce cholesterol. You are designed to produce cholesterol. You need cholesterol to function, to produce steroid hormones, to have your immune system function optimally, to have your thyroid function optimally. And I'll get into that a little bit here during the episode, but just know this clear-cut fact. A high-fat diet rich in grass-fed fats, animal fats, and organic cold-pressed virgin coconut oil will not raise cholesterol levels in a dangerous way. Yes, your cholesterol may actually go up on these foods, but that's not a bad thing. People take this to mean a bad thing. It's not, and I'll get into that when we talk about the redox potential piece in this episode. If you're eating animal products, grass-fed, wild-caught fish, these things will not elevate cholesterol levels in a dangerous way. They may get elevated, but if they do, they're not going to contribute to arterial plaque. What contributes to arterial plaque in the diet? Sugar and excess carbohydrate consumption, particularly when these foods are eaten out of season, out of your regional area. Okay, so let's just dissolve that myth right off the bat. If you eat cholesterol, your cholesterol will go higher? Maybe, but will it contribute to arterial plaque? No, it will not, unless that food is highly processed, packaged, sugar, high carbohydrate, especially out of season, and if you have a mitochondrial disorder, aka a chronic disease, or if your mitochondria is functioning subpar, you're going to want to keep carbs and sugars low until your mitochondrial health has improved. And this is one of the number one things I evaluate with the clients I work with. And this is a number one area that we address. Remember, your health is only as good as your mitochondrial function. So we've got that dietary piece out of the way. So let's explore some other layers here around cholesterol. If you go to any healthcare practitioner, conventional or functional or alternative, naturopath, etc., your conventional doctor will immediately write you a script for a statin drug. P.S. They have a particular quota to meet when it comes to prescribing statin drugs, and they actually get penalized when they don't meet their quota, and they get incentivized when they do meet it. Keep this in mind. There's a lot at stake for them here with regard to how many statin RXs they write. An alternative doc will often prescribe a particular diet for high cholesterol. Maybe they'll prescribe a low-fat diet, a low-cholesterol diet. These are big red flags. This is not going to help you in any way, shape, or form. It will only harm your health. Supplement-wise, they'll likely even prescribe things like red yeast rice and CoQ10 to combat elevated cholesterol levels. So let's take a really brief, quick look as to why these two approaches are Band-Aid solutions to a high cholesterol lab value. A statin drug will lead you straight into type 2 diabetes. And we know that people who have type 2 diabetes are much more prone. I think it's like 20 times, 40 times, it's a huge number, are much more prone to Alzheimer's, developing Alzheimer's disease. So not only will the statin drug lead you into a type 2 diabetic situation if you're not already there yet, it will also increase your risk of memory issues and Alzheimer's disease. Not to mention, this is really going to compromise your energy production, so your mitochondrial function will significantly decrease. You'll have more liver issues. Your liver will be a very poor detoxifier, and you will be much more prone to developing cancer because you won't be able to produce steroid hormones when your LDL cholesterol production is shut down by a statin drug. Really important to keep this in mind because your steroid hormone production is key to life, to your vitality, to your sleep, to cancer prevention, to your hormonal balance throughout your entire body, your metabolism throughout your body, your immune function. Very, very important on all of these levels. So really taking a statin drug, I'm just going to say it, it's a death sentence. I don't recommend it. Your health will get worse on a statin drug. I know that may sound intense, but it's the truth of the matter. My mom almost died taking a statin drug for 2 weeks. She went into liver failure. Her stools turned white, which is a sign of liver failure. And to this day, about 15 to 20 years later, we're still working on getting her mitochondrial health up to par from the damage caused by the statin drug. It is really dangerous business, you guys. All right, let's take a look at the red yeast rice CoQ10 combination for approaching elevated cholesterol levels. This combination is often prescribed in the alternative medicine world because red yeast rice naturally depletes CoQ10 levels. So right off the bat, anything that depletes CoQ10 in the body is a big red flag to me because this is a huge aspect of your energy production in your mitochondria. And I would never suggest anyone take something that's going to deplete how you produce energy. Your ability to produce energy via your mitochondria is how you live. It determines how you age, your energy levels, how you sleep. And so I would never want anybody to take something that compromises this integral core element, core piece to health. Both of these options, a statin drug and the alternative approach with the red yeast rice plus CoQ10, these actually don't get to underlying causes of your elevated cholesterol issue. Everybody who has elevated cholesterol has it for a very unique reason. And so if we just give everybody the same exact protocol, we're not doing anybody a benefit. We're doing them a disservice. We're not getting to the root of the issue. And I'm all about getting to the root of health issues. So we need to ask questions like, why? Why is your cholesterol elevated in your particular case? This is the question we need to be asking ourselves before we prescribe any protocol to the high cholesterol issue. Let's go into the land of cholesterol and explore the multiple roles it has, starting with HDL, or high-density lipoprotein. HDL is known as the quote-unquote beneficial form of cholesterol, but really, LDL is necessary and exceptionally beneficial as well. So let's just dissolve the myth that there are forms of cholesterol that are better and that are worse than others, because this really is inaccurate when it comes to the HDL, LDL, one's good, one's bad. They're both very beneficial. You need both of these. I would never want to suppress the body from making either one of these molecules. Most practitioners look at your lipid panel, so this means AKA your cholesterol numbers and values, as a reflection of your heart health. I don't. It's actually not a very accurate indicator of this at all, but it is an accurate indicator of what's going on in your gut, your liver. It's an accurate indicator of your cellular stress levels, of your sleep capacity, and your cancer risk. So let's take HDL, for example. Point blank, you can never have an HDL that is too high. And here's why. HDL levels are a marker of how well your liver filtering capabilities are. Your liver is a sieve, a filter, and it filters out poisons, it filters out toxins that enter your body via the gut. So if you get a bacteria in your food and you ingest it, if you come in contact with a fungus, a virus, a bacteria, if these things enter your body and get into your gut, these agents will often leak through the gut barrier and enter your portal circulation. Okay, this is your liver. It enters the liver's circulation, which allows your liver to process and detox and remove these things from your body so they don't become problematic and pathogenic. If your liver's filtering abilities are strong and on point, you'll be able to detox and remove these pathogens and toxins from your body very efficiently and effectively. How do we detect your liver's filtering status and abilities? By your HDL levels. A low HDL, what this tells me is that there's some chronic leaky gut at play, overtaxing the liver. Leaky gut is when food and pathogens and toxins literally leak through your gut barrier into your portal circulation. So it goes from your gut to your liver to be processed. When this happens chronically, the liver becomes overtaxed and HDL levels drop. When HDL levels are adequate, however, this tells me that leaky gut is minimal and your liver's ability to filter out pathogens and toxins is strong and sufficient. This is why if any doctor tells you to reduce your HDL, you should think twice about this suggestion, because your HDL needs to be adequate to support your gut and liver detox capabilities. A leaky gut will always be reduced when the liver's filtering capabilities are strong and adequate. And cases of leaky gut will worsen when the liver is unable to effectively filter out bacteria, toxins, these endotoxins, and so forth. And one huge predictor of your liver's ability to do this are your HDL levels. So this is why I use HDL to much more accurately detect leaky gut status and your liver's filtering status. If someone has chronic leaky gut, this will overtax the liver over time and will lower HDL levels. Okay, let's take a look at one of my favorite forms of cholesterol, which is LDL. And I love the underdog because we've been taught that LDL is bad and dangerous and is at the root of clogged arteries. And this is total BS. Just going to be clear and upfront about that. Today, I'm going to invite you to let go of this false belief that LDL cholesterol is bad and dangerous and leads to clogged arteries. It's just inaccurate. You need LDL cholesterol for many important and crucial biological processes to actually occur successfully throughout your body. And one of the most important functions of LDL is its role in the production of vitamin D. In order for you to make vitamin D, you need LDL cholesterol plus 312 nanometer light. Notice I didn't say a vitamin D supplement, because a vitamin D supplement doesn't contain LDL cholesterol nor 312 nanometer light. It contains 0 of these photochemical signals that you need and that nature designed you to have in order to make vitamin D. When I see elevated LDL cholesterol, I often see low vitamin D levels as well. Not always. Of course, this is a case-by-case basis all the time. We need to consider these things on a case-by-case basis. However, in many cases, when I see elevated LDL cholesterol, I often see low vitamin D levels as well. However, I want you to keep this one fact in mind. Your vitamin D levels will be inaccurate and masked by vitamin D supplementation. So if you're taking a vitamin D supplement and you go and get your labs drawn and your vitamin D comes back in a healthy range, this actually masks what's really going on with your vitamin D production. I want you to be able to produce vitamin D on your own, sans a pill, sans a supplement. And when you take a vitamin D supplement, I can't get an accurate reading as to what's really going on in your body. There are some cases where I do prescribe vitamin D supplementation, but never without incorporating the Sunlight RX into the picture as well. Why? Because you need that photostimulus from that 312 nanometer light in order to make vitamin D. You need LDL cholesterol and 312 nanometer light. You can't find this in a pill. You won't find it in a pill. You cannot biohack the sun. It's impossible. That's why the craze around photobiomodulation today, yeah, that's great and it can be helpful for a short period of time, but ultimately, my whole goal with people is to get them into an environment where they'll thrive. And I don't want to create an artificial environment for you to thrive. You can't thrive in an artificial environment. Photobiomodulation from a device may help you in the short term in some situations. However, my goal is for you to get your photobiomodulation the way nature designed via the Sunlight RX. And I'll just pop in the link to that right now where you can learn my Sunlight RX over at patreon.com/SunlightRx. I lay it out for you there as to how to improve your vitamin D levels using the Sunlight RX. This way you can produce your vitamin D naturally the way nature designed you to do. The goal I have for all my clients is to teach them how to utilize sunlight and my jet fuel diet to achieve optimal vitamin D levels. For my Caucasian and lighter skinned folks, I want their vitamin D to be between 100 and 120, okay? This is where I want your vitamin D levels to be. For my darker skinned folks, I want your vitamin D to be between anywhere between 60 and 80. Now, there's a reason for this. It's because people with darker skin are actually designed by nature to be able to spend more time in the sun. They're designed to interact with UV light much more so than paler, white-skinned, light-skinned folks. So the darker one's skin is, the less vitamin D one can absorb. So just by having darker skin, you're not going to be able to absorb as much vitamin D. That's just the nature of how we're designed, okay? People with darker skin actually need more sunlight exposure than people with lighter skin, simply due to this vitamin D production and absorption rate that occurs due to the type of skin one has. So for those of us with light skin, I want your vitamin D levels to be between 100 and 120. Your healthcare practitioner will look at this and will likely think this is insane. They've likely never seen a level this high. And really, the recommendation for having your vitamin D at 30 or 40 is really insane. It's way too low. We need to get it much, much higher than this if we want to improve your hormonal health, improve your mitochondrial health, improve your immune function. If you have a chronic disease or gut autoimmunity, your vitamin D, my goal for you is to get your vitamin D between 100 and 120. And this is a real goal I focus on with the people I work with. Now, this isn't going to happen overnight. You can take a vitamin D supplement and your vitamin D can go up 40 points, 60 points, or higher in a couple months. This is not how you're designed to absorb vitamin D. There's an element on your skin called melanin, and this melanin is what prevents you from becoming vitamin D toxic from the sun. So it regulates how much vitamin D you make when sunlight hits your skin. Okay? When you take vitamin D in a pill, you have no way to regulate the toxicity of vitamin D, which is very real. And I think a lot of people are actually walking around with a significant vitamin D toxicity and they don't even know it. There's so much to this issue around vitamin D supplementation that people are unaware of. One, it causes vitamin A levels to be imbalanced, which leads to something called melanopsin dysfunction, which is the very first layer. It's the beginning stages of every single mitochondrial disease today. So just by taking a vitamin D supplement, you can put yourself at a greater risk for chronic disease development when it gets to these toxicity states and vitamin A gets imbalanced. On my Patreon site there, I have 2 articles. One is called Melanopsin Dysfunction Part 1, Melanopsin Dysfunction Part 2, where I talk about the causes of melanopsin dysfunction and the relationship to our modern disease epidemics and formation. So when you become a member there, you can learn more about this, and I'll talk about this in upcoming episodes in greater detail as well. But just know your vitamin D supplementation is a mask. It's not produced by any photonic signals that your body is designed to produce vitamin D by, and that you need LDL cholesterol and 312 nanometer light to produce vitamin D. So let's move into low LDL numbers, because many people strive to have a low LDL, whereas I want your LDL to be actually above 200. 200 actually is maybe a little bit low, so mid 200s to upper 200s is a good goal that I have with the clients I work with. Any healthcare practitioner out there today is going to say that's a dangerous LDL level, but here's why I don't. When I see an LDL under 200, this is a big red flag to me, because we know people with the lowest LDL readings are most prone to cancer. There are at least 11 to 12 scientific studies out there right now pointing to this low LDL cancer correlation. And this is why many people who come into my practice with cancer have low LDL numbers, because an LDL below 200 points to greater cancer risk. And here's a really big reason why. With an LDL cholesterol below 200, this actually also tells me that your redox potential is low. Redox potential is the net negative charge in a cell. Each one of your cells, the more net negative charge it has, the healthier you will be. This is absolutely key to health. And a goal I have with all of my clients is to get their redox potential as high as they possibly can. The more net negative charge in a cell, the more of a healing machine you become, literally. Because when your redox is high and let's say a pathogen or a toxin enters your body, it's very quick to neutralize the toxic or potentially dangerous substance when your redox potential is high. So I like to correlate a high redox to a game of Tetris that you can never lose. So if your redox is high, your healing capabilities are astounding. Meaning a germ toxin, a pathogen, a poison enters your body, and just like that game of Tetris, when you align the blocks correctly, that toxin comes in and a high redox potential will boom, neutralize it, and you won't suffer negative health effects from that substance. If you have a high redox potential, you cannot have a chronic disease. It's impossible. This is what makes the Sunlight RX such a powerful healing practice, because it's the number one way to improve your redox potential. It's like hooking your body up to a charger. You're literally recharging your body's battery. Now think about this. We are super quick to recharge our cell phones when the battery gets low. Why don't we do that for ourselves? We need to do that for ourselves if we want to be healthy, if we want to prevent chronic disease, if we want to overcome chronic disease. We need to recharge our battery. And the fastest way to do this is to increase your redox potential via the Sunlight RX. Okay, a low LDL also tells me that you're likely to catch anything going around. You'll be more prone to allergies and autoimmunity. Your ability to detox could be compromised. And most notably, your ability to produce vitamin D and all steroid hormones will be super compromised. So these are just a few reasons why I'm not a fan of lowering LDL cholesterol. When I see low LDL values in my practice, we work on improving redox potential as a primary step. So just as I mentioned, this literally means recharging a low battery to restore it to optimal vitality and function. Okay, let's explore elevated LDL. This can get a bit more complex because there can be multiple reasons for this. First, remember that not all cholesterol is created equal, and not all LDL cholesterol is created equal either. LDL is very beneficial to immune function, to your detox capabilities, to your sleep potential, to vitamin D production. So let's explore some potential causes of elevated LDL values. One of the main causes of an increased LDL value is due to stress. Your cholesterol will rise in times of stress. And this is all causes, all different kinds of stress. A trip to the ICU, a fight or flight response to a full email inbox, or texts that you don't want to respond to, or a fight you just had in your relationship. It could be due to a stressful job, a full workload. And it can also be due to other stressors, like maybe you're taking a prescription drug that's causing this, or maybe you've been exposed to a toxin or poison that's building up in your body, causing cellular stress. All of these things can cause elevated LDL levels. Many of you may be familiar with the fight or flight stress hormone known as cortisol. What I'm about to tell you here is why many people today have chronically elevated LDL levels. And this is exactly why statins and red yeast rice and CoQ10 are band-aid approaches. Once you get this correlation right here between cholesterol and your hormones and stress, you'll literally know more about this subject than 98% of all doctors today. When you're stressed, for any reason, you're designed by evolution to produce cortisol, the stress hormone. This is an ancient pathway. It's an ancient biological method that allows us to escape the classic saber-toothed tiger getaway. Because we actually did have to run away from the saber-toothed tiger at one point in time. Today, there's no saber-toothed tiger, but this ancient pathway is still in place. When we're stressed, cortisol production increases. When your cortisol levels are increased, LDL production is also increased. And I'm going to show you how this works right now. If you're listening in and you're near a pen and a piece of paper, you might want to write this down because it's really going to help you get to some root causes of elevated LDL levels and even root causes of things like cancer. So while you're grabbing your pen and paper, I'll mention that in order to make all of your steroid hormones, okay, we're talking testosterone, DHEA, estrogen, progesterone, and vitamin D, you need a few things in place, also known as cofactors. You need some cofactors in place for this ancient pathway to be successful. The ancient pathway is how your body produces either cortisol or produces steroid hormones. Your body will choose to produce one or the other based on your stress levels. So here we go with that pen and paper. In order to make all steroid hormones, you need those cofactors, vitamin A plus T3, okay? Those are the cofactors. So right off the bat, in order to make your steroid hormones, you need vitamin A and T3, plus LDL cholesterol. So let's pause right here. If your thyroid hormone is off, which P.S. you also make in AM sunlight, which I lay out on the Sunlight RX, but if your thyroid hormone function is off, then you won't be able to make steroid hormones, including vitamin D. If your LDL cholesterol is low, such as in many cancer cases, you won't be able to produce steroid hormones, including vitamin D. In order to make all your steroid hormones, this is what you need, okay? So write this out like you're writing out a math formula. Vitamin A plus T3 plus LDL cholesterol, okay? All of these things interact with the mother of all hormones called pregnenolone. So you have vitamin A plus T3 plus LDL, then draw a little arrow and write the word pregnenolone. Pregnenolone then makes all steroid hormone production, okay? So you have vitamin A plus T3 plus LDL, you got an arrow to pregnenolone and an arrow to all steroid hormone production. Okay, there's your formula right there to making every single hormone in your body, including vitamin D. Let's take a look at that formula when a stressor comes on to the playing field. Okay, so you have vitamin A in your formula plus T3 plus LDL. It goes to arrow to pregnenolone. However, then the arrow goes to cortisol, and none of your steroid hormones, including vitamin D, get produced. This is what's known as, in the mitochondriac world, pregnenolone steal syndrome, meaning pregnenolone will be shunted to cortisol production every single time your body's stressed. It will choose to produce cortisol to enable your survival, your evolution, over producing all the steroid hormones, aka your ability to reproduce every single time. If this occurs chronically over time, your body will create an excess of LDL cholesterol, which actually won't get converted to steroid hormones or vitamin D. So in order to help you through times of stress, your body will increase its LDL cholesterol production every single time so you can produce cortisol. Now, let's take a look at when this cycle happens chronically. If you're in a chronic state of pregnenolone steal syndrome, what happens is LDL will then be hanging around in your plasma. It won't be converted to steroid hormones. It won't be converted to vitamin D. It's going to be just hanging out there in your plasma, waiting to be converted. But it's not being converted because your life, your environment is in high stress mode. When LDL sits in the plasma chronically, it becomes oxidized and its size shifts from being this fluffy and buoyant particle size to a small, dense particle size. Okay, this is referred to as SD, or small dense LDL, and this is the potentially dangerous form of LDL when it gets to that small dense LDL. Why? Because it's become oxidized, which is very dangerous to have oxidized agents in your body. When it's sitting in the plasma, this is what can contribute to that plaque formation. Most labs don't test for LDL particle size. So what I would recommend is when you do go in for your lab work, ask your doctor to test for LDL particle size. Tell them you want particularly the small dense LDL tested. And just to avoid confusion on your labs, when you see VLDL there, know that this is actually a very pro-anti-inflammatory agent that protects you from inflammatory damage. Okay? So really, it boils down to one of the most problematic forms of LDL cholesterol is when it achieves that small, dense, oxidized LDL size. So, if you're under stress, or you've taken a statin or other prescription that contributes to cellular stress, if you have a toxin in your body that is causing cellular stress, if you're exposed to non-native EMF and non-native blue light, these things are all cellular stressors. And these high stress states encourage the production of more cholesterol to protect your body and your cells. Okay, let's shift gears here to another lab that I look at when LDL is elevated, because this is a really good indicator of your inflammation levels. And I want to know what your inflammation levels are if your LDL is elevated. One, we can see, is there inflammation in the body? And how we can evaluate this is with a lab called HSCRP. When your HSCRP is elevated, this can, and not in all cases, but this can reveal that your body has more of that small, dense LDL particle side buildup going on. There are other labs to run to really get a clear, accurate picture as to if you have that small, dense LDL going on or not, but the HSCRP is one of those labs. So your HSCRP will be elevated when the liver is stressed. And this can occur from many, many things, such as a statin drug, other prescriptions, type 2 diabetes, leaky gut, a high pathogen load, a high carbohydrate diet, a high sugar, high processed and packaged food diet. These things can elevate liver stress. And this is actually known as fatty liver disease. Now, we know of alcoholic fatty liver disease, but a lot of people today actually have what's called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which is caused by a high carb consumption, high sugar consumption, other stressors, including non-native blue light and non-native EMFs. The liver, when it gets bombarded by these cellular stressors, responds by releasing this inflammatory protein, HSCRP, or high sensitivity CRP. I have all my clients test their HSCRP levels in our work, as this is a really great indicator of inflammation levels and the progression of a disease, the progression of an inflammatory state. I want your HSCRP numbers to be as close to 0 as possible, and anything over 0.5 is a red flag to me. Whenever I see an HSCRP over 0.5, I treat it super aggressively using an integrative drug and supplement-free approach, because I want to stop chronic disease from setting in, and I want to stop its progression if it's already started. In the case of LDL, if your LDL is elevated and your HSCRP is low, this tells me that your elevated LDL likely isn't resulting in a buildup of plaque. So just keep that in mind when you're reading over your lab values. A major goal of mine is to get the HSCRP below 0.5 and your HDL high. This is really, really helpful to reducing inflammation in the body, improving your liver's detox capabilities, and helping to rectify any leaky gut that may be at play. Okay, what are some other probable causes of elevated LDL? We've talked about some of these, but I'll just give you a bullet list here to do a quick overview. A high elevated or elevated LDL could mean a high pathogen load, meaning a bacteria, a viral, fungal load. It could mean that cellular stress is high in the body. It could mean that your diet is poor, meaning it contains excessive carbohydrates, excessive sugar, excessive processed and packaged foods. It could mean that you are having a toxic reaction to a prescription drug or even a supplement. It could point to leaky gut and gut autoimmunity. Remember, cholesterol production is a natural response to helping clean up the brush border or the gut barrier. So if you have a high pathogen load in your gut, your LDL production could increase. Also, your LDL could be elevated due to a sunlight deficiency, due to eating several small meals per day, which is one of the most common forms of health advice given today, but one of the worst ones as well. It could be due to late night eating. It could be due to Hashimoto's, or it could be due to non-native blue light, non-native EMF lifestyle. And what most people today don't realize is that this non-native blue light toxicity, this non-native EMF toxicity leads to pregnenolone steal syndrome every single time. That's why tamoxifen is no longer as effective, because people take tamoxifen and they don't get any sunlight exposure, and they continue to lead a life of non-native blue light and non-native EMF toxicity. And I predict over time that as our use of these devices continues to grow and escalate, that we're going to see tamoxifen become less and less effective over time. So getting to the root of why your LDL may be chronically elevated is absolutely vital to accurately unfolding your own personal cholesterol numbers and values and findings. Before you're quick to jump to the conclusion that high LDL equals heart disease and arterial plaque buildup, just know that there's much, much more to this LDL elevated cholesterol story. To get an accurate picture of LDL and heart health, we really need to consider some other labs like the small dense LDL, your HSCRP, but also things like homocysteine, your vitamin D levels, your HDL levels. I'll often request a hormone panel be run, a cytokine panel, cortisol levels, and a stool test. All of these things will paint a much clearer, more accurate and personal picture as to why your LDL may be elevated. So here's what you need to know about cholesterol. Not all LDL is created equal. You need LDL cholesterol plus 312 nanometer light to produce vitamin D. If you're stressed, LDL will be elevated, and chronic stress leads to pregnenolone steal syndrome, vitamin D deficiency, and failure to produce steroid hormones. Chronic leaky gut and gut autoimmunity or chronic gut disorders over time will lead to a decrease in HDL and will compromise the liver's filtering capabilities and detox capabilities. A high HDL is liver protective. An LDL below 200 increases cancer risk and decreases your healing potential because it decreases your redox. Really, we need to approach cholesterol on a case-by-case basis, and we need to put the entire lab and bowel movement health and stool testing and health history plus your environment, the environment that you live in. We need to put this complete picture together to discover why your LDL is low or high. So don't let your doctor give you a one-size-fits-all approach to your cholesterol, and don't let any doctor tell you your elevated cholesterol is due to a genetic default. In 10 years, I have heard of one elevated cholesterol case that might be related to a genetic mutation. And really, genetic mutations also go back to poor mitochondrial health, which goes back to a poor environment. For those of you who want a detailed refresher on this subject, head over to episode 6, The Role of Epigenetics and Disease, where I go into full detail about genetics. So my advice is to save $250 when your doctor suggests undergoing salivary genetic testing to determine your cholesterol levels and if they're genetic and if you can pass them on to your children or not. This is just going to complicate a super uncomplicated situation, because really when you get to the heart of why you have elevated cholesterol levels or low cholesterol levels, you'll likely learn that it has nothing to do with genetics, and the story can get much more clear, much more accurate, and can be revealed to you simply by taking a deeper look at other labs, at your health history, at your toxin exposure, and at the environment you live in. So thanks so much for tuning into this episode today. You literally now know more than 98% of doctors when it comes to the cholesterol story. You no longer have to jump to the conclusion that high cholesterol equals heart disease and clogged arteries, or that low cholesterol is good. For those of you seeking a deeper, more personal and integrative approach to your cholesterol story, send an email my way and we can set up a health discovery call so you can learn how I can help you get to deeper layers of why you're struggling with cholesterol issues, and we can make a personalized, proactive plan to help you get to the root causes of your issues around cholesterol and other health struggles. You can email me at heather.shepherd@gmail.com. Again, my name is spelled HEATHAR.SHEPARD@gmail.com. For those of you wanting to learn more about me and my approach to healing, you can follow me on the gram at sunlight_RX or on facebook.com/Heather Shepherd. Also, I invite you all to hop over to my site, heathershepherd.com. Really, really amazing site done by the amazing Carol Hampshire, and kudos to her. If you're looking to have a professional, really beautiful website designed to help support you and your offerings, I cannot recommend her highly enough. So hop over to my site, take a look at the work she's done and my offerings there. You can take a look at my Sunlight RX offering, my one-on-one healing work, upcoming boot camp this March held in Mexico. Super stoked for that. Registration is not open yet, but will be coming soon. And you can learn all of these deep integrative approaches I take to healing. Thanks so much for joining me today, and we'll see you next time. The Primal Pioneer podcast is not intended to diagnose, treat, or cure any disease or condition. The information shared on this podcast is not intended as medical advice or treatment in the Western medical censor terms. The Primal Pioneer podcast is to be used for informational and educational purposes only.